Israel, both the head of the Shin Bet, of the kind of FBI of Israel, and the Attorney General are not political appointees. They're civil servants, and they're supposed to be completely independent of the executive. Never in the history of the state has either an Attorney General or a head of the Shin Bet been fired. That says there are procedures in place for how such an act could be done, and the government has not followed these procedures in either case. But I want to even take a step back. The first act this week that the Netanyahu government undertook was to reappoint Itamar Ben-Gvir to be the Minister of National Security. The Attorney General had determined that that was illegal because he's under investigation for abuse of power. Itamar Ben-Gvir is one of the most extremist members of Netanyahu's government. He's a man who was convicted 13 times of hate crimes and terror. So he's quite a case. That was the first defiance of the law. The second one was going ahead with the vote against the Shin Bet director, again, despite having been warned by the Attorney General that this was not legal. And the government went ahead with that and is just bulldozering on ahead, now attempting to fire her herself. So the country is in a very profound crisis, and the government right now is sort of wavering, threatening not to adhere to Supreme Court decisions regarding these acts, and then sometimes taking a bit of a step back.
So, Noga, I mean, I know that there have been several mass protests in Israel recently, but as far as public officials go, is there any real opposition left to speak of in Israel, especially as this war in Gaza continues?
Well, the legislative opposition in Israel has proven itself to be very weak so far. And you're right that the fact of this ongoing war has really confused matters because few Israeli party leaders are willing to stand up and say, we oppose this government, we oppose the war, in what was perceived initially as an existential war way back in October 2023. But things are shifting quite rapidly in Israel. So in the last few days, since the government stepped up these illegal actions, we have seen every single living former attorney general demand that the government step back. In recent days, we've seen retired chiefs of staff of the army openly, overtly say that the government has chosen to continue the war, not for military reasons, but to keep Netanyahu in power, heads of the Mossad. So it is becoming more and more of a struggle between the government and society itself. We've seen the heads of unions, commerce, industry all say that if the government dares to defy the Supreme Court, the entire country will come to a halt. That said, Aaron, behind the scenes of this kind of vast public eruption, the government is moving ahead with other legislation, which is also authoritarian-ish. For example, this week, the government is planning on passing a law which would allow it basically to stuff the Judicial Appointments Committee. And since Netanyahu is on trial, that means that his government, his ministers would be choosing the judges who hear his future appeals.